articles in this. And there is a copy of that magazine down at the other end of the hall among the many rare books that Dr. James Good has set up for us. I encourage you to go down there before you leave and take a look at the articles in Playgirl. Before his death in 1984, this inductee created a foundation that still operates and bears his name. And the foundation actually is represented tonight by John Zackham, who also happens to be a nephew of the inductee, and he's right here. Our final 2014 inductee tonight is Greenup County's Jesse Stuart. He actually may be good looking enough to be the centerfold. To read an excerpt tonight from Stuart's work is Georgia Green Stamper. When Georgia moved to Greenup County in 1968, Jesse Stuart was still in relatively good health, and Georgia remembers seeing him at the Greenbow State Park Lodge or signing books at Parsons Department Store in nearby Ashland. She was particularly struck upon learning that he had helped ignite Kentucky's bookmobile movement in the 1950s. And Georgia is a writer herself, and she wrote an essay called Jesse Stuart, the Bookmobile, and Me. And she writes in it, one of the first of those funny-looking mint green bread trucks stuffed with books sputtered to a stop in the graveled parking lot of three-room New Columbus grade school. Afterwards, I was never the same. How had Jesse Stuart known how hungry I was for books? Please welcome Georgia Green Stamper.
Oh, what an honor it is to give voice to a few of Jesse Stuart's beautiful words. But because he wrote so many words, because he was very prolific in multiple genres, I've had a very difficult time, Neil, trying to decide what to read tonight. I finally decided to read a very brief prose scene from his powerful memoir, Beyond Dark Hills. And I'm going to conclude with sonnet number 1 from The Man with a Bull-Tongue Pal. Just so you people out in the audience know, it's not really very easy to see a page up here. So if I ad-lib one of Jesse Stuart's beautiful words, we blame the lighting. How about that? Rent was raised on my father. $12 in cash was too much to pay a month for the use of 100 acres of land and pasture for his cattle. Again, we were ready to go. We had cleared that farm for somebody, and we were ready to move on. We were willing to move away from our neighbors. One house was in sight down the creek from us. We were living too close. This place is too much like a town to suit me, said my mother. It was true. Our chickens had mixed with our neighbors. Their Plymouth Rocks and our gray games had actually crossed. It was early January when we were getting ready to go, but we were delayed. Herbert, the boy next to me, took down with pneumonia. I recall vividly the January day with a little bit of sun when my father sat on a box under a leafless apple tree. He wrung his hands and said, "It is too unbearable to stand." I recall seeing a spring wagon with a pine box roped to the bed and 2 mules hitched to it, and then a short train of buggies and wagons that followed. We had to go 5 miles to my grandfather's farm for burial. He was there, his hair white and tousled by the blowing wind. He called to the driver who drove the leading team, "Right this way." The driver drove out across a little field, and all the other teams followed. It was the best way to get to the top of the hill. Grandfather Hilton had cut the wires of his pasture fence. We saw the fresh dirt thrown up near some pine trees. I remember how cold my feet got standing in the mud and how the people cried. All of the others in the family cried, but I did not. I cried when I went back home and he was gone. That night at the fireside, Mom said, "Well, I feel free and moving on now. Herbert's buried on land that belongs to my father. He'll not sell it while he lives. It will be part mine by inheritance at his death, and for my part, I shall take the place where the grave is. You know, I just couldn't stand to move on and leave his grave on property owned by other people. It's foolish to be that way, but that's the way I feel. We don't own any land to bury him on, but I can rest tonight, knowing that his body lies on my father's soil. We have to move now. I can stand this place no longer." The same spring wagon that hauled my brother away took our furniture on the road again. I led the cows, called the hounds, and later came back for an express load of chickens. "Sir, I am a farmer singing at the plow, and as I take my time to plow along a steep Kentucky hill, I sing my song, a one-horse farmer singing at the plow. I do not sing the songs you love to hear. My basket songs are woven from the words of corn and crickets, trees and men and birds. I sing the strains I know and love to sing, and I can sing my lays like singing corn. I can flute them like a fluting gray corn bird, and I can pipe them like a hunter's horn. All of my life, these are the songs I've heard, and these crude strains no critic can call art. Yours very respectfully, Jessie Stuart."